Ms. Mercado or Ms. Cushingberry?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can. I see where it says the content of this meeting is being sent to a third party.
It's to Fireflies. The note taker is Ingrid, and then we are on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure you're aware.
We don't have a quorum. So we will be getting started once we have a quorum with the committee.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thanks, everybody.
Ms. Robin, do you see me?
Yes, ma'am, I can see you.
Okay, thank you.
I need to go through the formal Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence and all that. Okay.
And then what we'll do as far as when we get to the announcement that we don't have a quorum, and once we do, we're going to continue upon reviewing. Once we do have a quorum, it's our fifth and we can make it the date tonight. So, thank you.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Health Advisory Committee. We currently do not have a quorum, so we're not going to be able to, we're only gonna be able to review. We're not gonna be able to make a vote this evening, but we want to go ahead and do that work. So we're gonna run the meeting up to that point. So we'll start with everybody please standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the
republic for which it
which is
stands,
one nation under God, indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, but because we don't have a quorum, we're not able to do that. Ms. Robin, do we have any public comments this evening? All right. So at this time, the next thing is to review the remaining health curriculum content. There were I think 2 units, maybe 3 that we had other people slated to review, and then they were not able to join us, and we haven't received that information back. One of those was in the middle school, module 1, but Ms. Glaze also reviewed module 1, so we don't need to worry about that one. And that was for the supplement, and then also module 1 of the textbook. So what we're needing review of is textbook module 10, lessons 1 through 5, which is the life cycle. I believe that is the only one that we're needing. So are we wanting to review that as a group tonight, or do we want to?
It'd be better if you assigned it to someone.
Yeah.
Or, assign someone volunteers.
So do we have any volunteers?
There's 5 lessons,
Yes, sir.
so whichever you want me to do.
Oh, that works for me. Well, we want to just go around the table.
Sure.
You can do lesson 1. It's module 10 of the middle school textbook.
I don't have, do you have a?
I want to go.
I do right here.
Oh, yay.
Do you want a
I did
page
pull
number?
that out.
And you've already
So he
sent us
took,
the
he
link.
took model 1.
Yeah, and we can resend the links for you guys to
Yes.
log in. Dr. Pierce, if you'll do lesson 2.
And did you say number 1 for me would be the changes during puberty?
I can read them to you. So it's module 10 is the life cycle. Lesson 1, changes during puberty.
Yes, the Dr. Miss
Lesson
Glaze.
2, male reproductive health. Lesson 3, female reproductive health. Lesson 4, infant and child development. And lesson 5, staying healthy as you age.
Out of, if you'll do lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, I'll do lesson 4, lessons 4. Okay,
So this
unless-
is middle school.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Middle school, module 10 of the
Would
textbook.
you like a page number?
They don't have physical copies, they have
Okay.
digital
So
So
copies.
y'all are gonna have to send this.
Ms. Cushionberry will.
I'll
resend
the
link
link again
Send us a
for you.
link again.
Get the electronic link to it.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Emily.
Sure. Okay. Any questions? I think one lesson that should be hopefully relatively painless addition of, and a lot of it's duplication of stuff that we've kind of already reviewed as well, so hopefully this goes quick. The next item on our agenda is to discuss the suggestions for help content. I'm gonna slide that over to Miss Emily since she was the one who sent this out to us.
Tell me which documents to put up and I'll share that.
Okay, sure. So I'm just going to refer to this one. It's just sort of like.
The supplement.
So hopefully everyone was able to view the videos. The first video at the top of the supplement page was the healthy family relationships. And all the concern was Miss Pryor's material, that it was out of date in British. So this was just a search of an updated version of that.
I thought it was a good video. I didn't see any issues.
And that was the healthy relationships.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
I thought it had a nice diversity of ages and races and good focus on family. And they did mention that it's also helpful to reduce screen time for adults and students, which is appropriate and helpful. Yeah. So that was good.
The second video was just, was the AIDS video, it was, very, I don't wanna, just the AIDS video.
Well, is this for middle school or high school?
This was for the concern, it was your share about no, just kind of throwing in LGBTQ with no background. and it had to do with the AIDS video. So this was, so I don't remember if you had middle or high. I could look it up, but
I can look it up too.
I think that was the high school.
high school.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this video, was it to,
This video was appropriate. I believe it was, the grade span was 6 to 12.
well, I thought that, you know, the material presented on this most recent video on AIDS was okay and appropriate for high school, but I personally thought it was a little much for middle
We
school.
did the scientific
Yeah.
verbiage.
I'm almost positive it was the high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be, some of that is gonna be, they're gonna have to go slow and have some discussion, but, you know, I think it's still appropriate for high school, but for me, I thought it was much for the middle school.
I think,
Right.
I think that I brought up, I saw a video, maybe HIV, it was during middle school. I said that the video it just was outdated, it was talking about,
Okay.
think, HIV/AIDS being most prominent, with, you know, gay men, and it was just really out of, it didn't seem like it fit with what, you know, what we're experiencing now as far as.
Were you able to see the videos? Were you able to?
I didn't see the one that I addressed.
So I can show it to you. I don't know if that's it.
I did look at that you're talking about, that first one.
That one was the healthy family relationships.
Okay.
The second one.
I looked at that, but that wasn't the same video that I had referenced.
Right, it was an alternative as like a proposed
Oh,
supplemental video, so that's,
yes, that's my.
yeah, just suggestions.
Okay. I missed that it was a suggestion, but I looked at it and I just was thinking, oh, this is the one I watched, but I didn't see anything that was wrong.
Even with the sophisticated vocabulary, I think they could get that the main theme was that the immune system will weaken, which is what you want them to understand. And the 4 ways that HIV is transmitted, those were pretty clear cut. So that was good.
The third, was it bullying video? Maybe I did get confused. I think this was where you had a concern, or you shared that it just mentioned maybe reasons for students getting bullying, and that it just sort of randomly threw out and referenced.
Yeah, there was, yeah, I think you're right. I put in my notes what I reviewed before. You know, there was some LGBTQ plus issues. And I thought that in the previous video was a little much for middle school. This one thought was pretty good. So,
Can I just ask you all to speak up just a little bit so the people online, because I don't have a mic in
I'm
here.
sorry, I thought.
No, you're fine, and because the mic is up there.
Okay.
So, just a small reminder.
So I didn't have any issues with the current one. I thought it was pretty good. Are we looking to replace the previous one with this new one? Is that what we're
So,
talking about?
so it would just be offered as a supplement to the material, so you wouldn't remove it, but you would, if you all choose to do so,
Sure.
then it would be offered as something like an enhancement.
Okay.
All right, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I misunderstood, but when I read the standards, we're not to mention anything about LGBTQ, correct?
I don't believe that that's in the standard yet.
It's on the type, one of the,
The Aaron Law and the other one.
it's from the state, maybe it's in the state, health act.
And that was,
Yeah, I didn't think we were allowed to mention anything about that.
and that was definitely in the textbook.
It was, that
57
was-
of the textbooks from before.
I can't.
Where it gets complicated is that it's state adopted textbook
Correct.
that was adopted during X period of time. And now the state has come out with an update of language. So what we have to be conscious is that the PD to the teachers means you have to skip this section in order to be compliant with the state legislation.
Yeah, I think it's a part of the Comprehensive Health Education Act. So chapter 32 of Title 59.
Do you know where in the text?
I'm
you saw it?
working, oh, it's in multiple places in the text, but specifically about bullying, and AIDS. In both the high school and the middle school.
I have page 57 of the textbook, in the Glencoe Health 2021 is where it was, mentioned.
It is, yeah, under status.
Here we go, yeah, section 593230 of the local school boards to implement comprehensive health education programs. Under Article A, number 5. It says the program of instruction provided in this section may not include a discussion of alternate sexual lifestyles from heterosexual relationships, including but not limited to homosexual relationships, except in the context of instruction concerning sexually transmitted diseases.
So it's not a discussion, it's a mention.
So let me take the path that way. And you mentioned, how do you inhibit discussion? Because you said it at the table.
And then
That
our
was, I
hand
think
goes
his
up on.
concern is that it was mentioned but no reference, so then you're gonna get a kid that.
Correct. Well, but in other parts of the text in both the high school and middle school, it does go into much more in-depth conversation. So that's, I feel like we're between a rock and a hard place because the states recommended a certain curriculum, but their laws are different. So their textbook is not compliant with their laws. So what does that leave districts to do? And
Now,
how
when
to-
you get to that part of the text as a teacher, we're not gonna assign it to Johnny, Mary, or Peter to read.
do we
I hate to
have
be
that?
that specific.
I understand, but do we have that luxury with the digital?
It's very easy. Hi, class. Yes, we're all PE teachers, health certified. When we get to page 59, section column 2, paragraph 4, we're skipping that. Why? Legislation.
Correct, but so I'm,
There may be questions.
well, but I'm
Legislation.
But I'm like Jane Schmidlap sitting in my health class and I'm going through my textbook
Yeah,
and I come upon it, like, is that a challenge or?
I have a solution. We take the chapter and we put it into a PowerPoint.
And so they don't get the physical text. And so we have to create our own, is what I'm just asking. So that would be part of what would come out of this committee. Our suggestion would be to have curriculum writers create whatever, okay.
Or can we just do like a disclaimer? I mean, send out a disclaimer and just say, you know, the text was approved by blah, 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 blah. There are some contexts that are not compliant with the state. However, we're unable to, you know.
We haven't had a new adoption since, what is this, 2016? Am I, or did I, let me confirm that.
Yeah,
At
I mean, just
least,
do a
yes.
disclaimer. That way, if the children read it, then they're reading it, but the teacher is not reviewing it. As long as the teacher isn't making it a part of the lesson, I mean, that
How does
should
the teacher
suffice.
respond if the student has a question? Can you explain that to me?
Well, the disclaimer
Legislation.
says, you know, there is information in the text that are not in line with the state,
Okay,
so I can't address your question.
okay.
Sorry.
If I can put on a teacher hat, when the same thing used to happen with the old material, and they want to talk about prevention, we weren't allowed to discuss it, so you just had a phrase or two that you just said, like, you know, they want to talk, and I'm sorry, I can't talk about it. Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk.
So I'm gonna put on a different teacher. Because we have parents that are very vocal at our school. And I would be fearful as a teacher, what is my protection against them? Like I mean, if I have a parent that makes a big to-do,
Like your back would be against the wall? Like,
Yeah,
why is this out
well-
of compliance? Yada, 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 yada.
well, just dealing with, I mean, I don't know, I guess dealing with the backlash of that and how quickly it spreads through a classroom and then through an entire grade, and kids talk and parents talk, and just having to face that anxiety coming into my classroom of fear of what's going to happen if.
So that goes back to a disclaimer. So is it a recommendation of the committee that the subject area addressing items that are prohibited due to legislation, those units get rewritten? And in addition, that we create a disclaimer. Those are recommendations that you as a committee can bring forward. I'm just summarizing your conversation, right? Because of what the board then supports. That's where it goes back to also protect our educators.
I'm happy with that recommendation, you know, but then, you know, it's gonna be a while before we get a new textbook written, so we're gonna have to deal with what we have, you know, right now.
And there are some chapters, units within this text, you can totally close off. We make not a supplement, but we take the information that they do need to receive and create a PowerPoint
Lesson
or
or something,
something.
yeah.
So that way they don't have access to that information. That particular chapter, you can close it so that teachers have to close, you've got the responsibility to do so.
But may I lay another question on top? So how many chapters are we looking at that may cross over to what is prohibited by legislation? Because that would be the mapping then for defining our curriculum writing.
Fair enough.
I think it's less than 10, but it's more than 5.
7.
Off the top of my head, I'm just trying to think, but you know, the challenge too is some of the modules, it's like in one sentence, right? Like the bullying. Do we throw out the whole bullying because of that? I don't think so. Like that would just be me. That would be a lot of content. But then there's other ones like there's a whole unit on AIDS, and the chapter in middle school, and it has extensive content about LGBTQ+. And so I know that will get a lot of pushback.
So I think that's a conversation, again, recommendation back to the board. If it is language, if it is a paragraph, or if it's 3 paragraphs, does it denote the difference? If it is against legislation, does it matter again? The amount
Right.
of the text, if it's against legislation.
So for us, we should just maybe have like a sheet of paper where that stuff is to present to the board and say, these are areas where we found there was content. Or
I would say that when it comes to the board, there has to be alternate as well in regarding, because the next question.
what are you gonna do instead?
Yes, and yes, and you see, y'all got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough.
A lot of yeses.
What are we gonna go as far as, you know, not the PowerPoints, like not the content, but is there something in place? Is there something in place as far as content goes? For the, yes, for the teachers to reference, or are we gonna provide?
The short answer right now is no.
Okay.
However, we are currently in curriculum writing for other things. So I do feel like if Dr. Stratos so approves, we could easily do. I came from a school district in North Carolina where the district wrote their own curriculum for reproductive health, and that was what we taught. And that way we knew it was compliant. The time to do that, I think, is extensive.
However, it would be critical to have consistency across all schools, all levels, so. it
Well,
is
we had
something that
training
needs
every
to be
year
worked. Yes.
in those lessons.
But the same message needs to be
Yes.
heard at every school regardless of where you.
That's where the PD comes in.
Yeah.
And I think we have to bring forward to the board alternates for their decision making. I think that's critical. Right, I mean, that's at the core of the work. I can support curriculum writing that is in alignment to the legislation, because that's what we need to do, period. But I want that decision to come as the Health Advisory Council legislation. Anything alternate is presented to our board.
So that could be an option.
But then I have to ask the question, what is the turnaround? Because we were doing an ETA of thinking for middle school, that we would be able to have spring something for our teachers in their hands, so they'd be complying with the education component. Do we think that to have curriculum writing reviewed and packaged for the health and reproduction modules can be completed and brought to the board in that timely fashion, so we can get it into the hand of our educators? That's something that I have to ask.
So my
Coordinator.
question would be, how many lessons are we looking at? And I know that's a big Rubicon question that we like. How much time do we have and how much of this is gonna take? Are we talking 10 lessons per grade level?
How many standards are required for health and reproduction? So I think,
Well, all 8 standards are in, but it's the performance indicators, how many performance indicators and how many lessons those could be broken down into, and that's probably
that's
looking at the grade level.
Well,
Haven't determined.
those 5 lessons that you all just took were only 20 pages in the text in total. So
Emily, can you say that louder?
I think the missing.
The 5 lessons
review
are
that-
missing.
That they all just signed up for. I want to say that in total, I think it was 20 pages in the textbook for all 5 lessons.
For health
So-
and reproduction, so that's not a lot.
No,
It really isn't a lot.
well, I mean, anything else would be icing on the cake, but if that's the core, then, you know, that's the focus.
Well, and, right, so that would be the next thing, is deciding which part of that for a curriculum would be.
However, I think we need to finish with the review to figure
Yeah.
out how much we need
Yeah.
to go.
Yes,
Back.
and then have the discussion to come
Absolutely.
forward if there will be writing, and if there is writing. Okay, let's timeline.
Right.
Okay. So you want to continue reviewing what you have. And make note, Emily, that you have a sidebar of potential writing. To be a recommendation instead of cut and piecing what the state has come forward with. Because if that, whatever's written would have to come to committee first.
Sure.
Something that-
The district has done this.
In South Carolina, actually.
Am I wrong? Didn't a lot of the performance objectives, didn't they kind of overlap
Yeah,
indicators?
they do.
Okay. So we might meet a lot of the performance indicators, you know, and not have to really focus on one by one, but more so, you know, just kind of looking at the
What's
meat of the
missing.
what's missing and what we didn't cover.
That's like the heart of curriculum writing, is when you fill it all in and then you've got to figure out what you're missing.
Yeah.
It's like that no matter the topic.
Okay.
Get you a t-shirt.
We can get you editing rights.
Alright, we were up to, we got sidebarred, the no postnatal care information given in the text.
Yes, so this handout with the blue trim, this one that you all have. that came from the Department of Health, South Carolina. It was a large document, but I just pulled out the things that address the concerns that you had.
So here's my question again. What, if I'm a teacher and I get this, am I just gonna give this to students, or do we need to create an activity around this, like have them make brochures or posters or whatever, where they would have to use this resource to find the information rather than just, because I think there's a lot of really incredible information here.
But the curriculum team will look at that and highlight what's most important. How do you think it should look like, sound like? Again, that's another discussion. Right now, we're just reviewing, the material itself,
Okay.
but fair enough.
So
Absolutely.
postpartum depression is appropriate for discussion in high school?
Yeah, because we talk about being
Mental health.
mothering, parenting in high school.
Well, I'm certainly aware of postpartum depression. I would bet that the actual medical postpartum depression that would probably not occur as much in the teenage population. Maybe you all, I'm the only man in the room, you can tell me, you all can.
It does not pick and choose.
My age.
Yeah.
Well, I also think too, especially at the high school level, when I taught there, I was the last time these children would have health unless they went into a field about health. And so, yes, it was about teaching them immediately as they are, but also planning for the future, thinking about the future, what to do with. And I do think mental health, as much as we can reduce stigma around issues with mental health, no matter what they are with teens, I think is really important, because there may not be something like I may be a 17-year-old boy sitting in my class and I'm reading the symptoms of postpartum depression and I'm like, oh, well, I can check off 4 or 5 of these boxes. Maybe I should. I obviously didn't have a child, but like, am I depressed now too? And making those connections for kids.
They might recognize it in their mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it plays into the mental health, how much we see it every day nowadays. So I think it's a good way to just put it out there without making, like you're encouraging, being a teenage mother, but more so just like kind of normalizing it, because it is.
Taking the stigma away from it.
Mhm,
It's not something to be ashamed of and hide about.
Exactly.
Ask for help. Yeah.
I think the more that you talk about mental health, I think the better it'll be, especially for the younger people, so that they can learn these symptoms of it and what to look for, and just so that they can see it in their other peers as well. Just from my perspective.
Thank you. I think that's all.
Oh, okay, the next, yep, all the videos.
Yeah.
The next one was the health parent letter. So I've done, okay, so the first piece that you have was the parent letter that went with the material that we used to use. It was called Making a Difference. This was, I believe this was created at a district level. This was an opt-out letter, but also a consent. The parents were just informed. My supplement to that, because the concern or the question, I guess, was giving parents notice about topics that were being, and it had to do with mental health was one of the concerns, but also there was another topic that somebody felt that parents should be like have a notice that something was coming. So the supplement, the suggestion, I guess, for the second piece, the newest piece, was just taken directly from the beginning of the health standards for South Carolina. So that the first 4 pages just list the standards, but included in that is under key concepts and symbols and terms. are the verbiage in the legislation behind why this is taught and how it is taught. Single gender, which you've all mentioned. So it could be an information piece for parents to know that things are coming, but also to show them where it's coming from and why.
So all of this would go home to parents?
You could snip. I mean, this was just,
That's a lot.
that is up for negotiation, but just a suggestion. Based
Well-
on the concern for parent information.
So, and I'm gonna put myself out there because I don't follow, so let me back the bus. The national standards for health education are what we call skills-based. So they don't differentiate down to alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, injury prevention and safety, mental, emotional health. It's inclusive within those 8 standards. So if you flip back to page 2, where it talks about the 8 standards, that's it for the national standards. State of South Carolina adopted those 8 national standards, but then they put these subcategories of the different, what you would typically old school think of health. Like I'm studying substance abuse, I'm studying mental health, I'm studying nutrition. But I don't necessarily, I teach those things, but I kind of meld it all together and do more skills based. I don't know if I'm the anomaly in the district or not. So, bless you. My question is, I don't know that parents would necessarily understand the key concepts and the abbreviations because.
Putting on the parent hat.
Yeah.
It's not about the abbreviations. You're informing me that these topics are
Are gonna
part
be
of what
you're-
South Carolina is
Okay.
required. And so, and then below that, you're telling me the legislation tells me why.
Okay.
And all of this, I didn't want to cut too much, so it's,
So we knew
it
where it
is
came
for
from.
sure probably
Right.
more, but that would be for you all to
Right.
decide.
Because these are the intro pages to the standards.
Correct.
So if you were to pull up the state standards for health.
You could decide that you only wanted to include this. That's up for you all. This was a suggestion because a parent letter is gonna have to be created at some point
Right.
because it's old material.
Do we create that or is that? District.
Probably goes as a suggestion.
Okay.
What about someone of district manner and stature? What if they do like a video? And make a, because sometimes people, they don't want it, reading that, we gotta remember what, remember cultural competence and cultural diverse, populations. All of our parents are not gonna understand this stuff.
I felt the same way.
What about a video or inviting parents to, I don't know, not a forum, but just like an information session. I know it's a lot, but we gotta try to reach our community where they are, not where we are.
Well, that also comes down to translating it into
Yeah.
other languages.
Yeah, without omitting anything or just really being transparent about what the message is. I think I wouldn't mind a video or some sort of, something, with someone speaking, a familiar
Well,
face.
I'm even thinking too, if we could have a page on the district website where people could click and it be interactive, where, either it is a little video explaining that component of it, or it's, an infographic that's created
Right.
of some sort. So then it's always there.
It stays there, it's always accessible. We make sure that we put it out in our newsletters, our bulletins.
But
We
it's the
send
one
a-
place we send everybody in the district, so there's that consistency there that everybody's getting, because.
It would have to be developed with a curriculum writing team again in order for all the ancillary materials to be brought forward, developed, right? It's the only way to execute.
Yeah.
Because then then it gets, should it be approved, then communications would be the platform by which it be populated to our district as well.
I have board members on in chat. Elizabeth Tate says a video is a great idea. Someone else came through and said a great idea.
That was me again. Sorry, I was just trying not to interrupt. But I think the website's a fantastic idea and a great place. Sorry, I'm hoarse from being sick. A great place as like a landing page, because then everyone at every school or other teachers aren't having to recreate the material.
If you do that, how do you get permission
I
from
was just-
parents?
Yep, so is this in conjunction with a parent letter?
Well, to me, it would be, you sending home notice that, hey, this is what's gonna be covered and this is coming up. For more information, you can go to blah, blah, blah. We could make a tiny URL or a bit.ly or something that's gonna take them directly to that page so they don't have to try and navigate from the district's homepage to where it is. And whether that's a Google site or whatever, or, you know, it's on the district page. That way it's just always housed in the same. But I definitely, I mean, that way, I feel like too, because this is a lot of information and it'll help answer a lot of questions. But not every parent is going to,
Most parents are used to one page, a letter, and they would probably read that.
well, and I think we were opt-out, correct?
It's still, yeah. So that letter still needs.
Yeah.
Not the full, not the letter that we were talking about, but they still have to be optional. So there still has to be something.
So there has to be something.
Well, this was the previous letter that was sent, the first page, and, you know, really, when you look at that, that includes, you know, most of what you're looking for, permission.
But you can put QR codes on it to link
Yeah.
to additional.
Adds to supplemental material.
And the
Link.
way that letter, you could still have it exist at the bottom where it's an opt-in, opt-out, snip off
Yeah.
spot too.
Well, I think just giving people access to seeing what is there in line.
There was a suggestion to align bullying topics to the month of October. And I put in here that there are some curriculum writers right now, and I have shared that with them and asked them to incorporate that into their curriculum writing. So they're all on board. So moving some things around, but trying to make sure that bullying ties into the month of October, because that was Red Ribbon Week and all the other things that you all shared. Mhm. And then the last thing was just the graphic organizers. That was just to share, because it was mentioned about personal choices and people making decision-making. This didn't really tie to any particular concern. It was just something that we could be included as a resource for some of the topics when discussing, you know, weighing your pros and cons or things like that. And this came from the elementary approved, already approved. So this is super easy to incorporate if that's something that you like. That was it.
I do like the graphic organizer as a teacher. I do like the consistency as well. We were discussing earlier, my challenge with this specifically is I think it would be nice to kind of make one that aligns to the decision-making model that's throughout the book, 6th through high school. Because they use the same mnemonic throughout the whole. So if we could make something very similar that uses that mnemonic, because otherwise I think we might confuse students. I'll also let you know, as a teacher, from the ancillary materials, there is a decision-making activity for students to do with every unit or module. And so it'll give a scenario, and then you have to say what you would do, where they have opportunities throughout the entire curriculum to practice their decision-making. That's it, so that's mine.
My only comment was I would have needed an example of how to use this, like see a written example of a decision that had to be made, et cetera, but, you know, it would be good to be consistent in whatever you use.
Thank you. I'm just gonna try and get in one of those decision-making activities. Just-
And when you shared the information on baby blues, et cetera, one of the standards mentions that postnatal care is covered, and that's why we put out there that there was no mention.
And it was your
That's
concern,
right.
and I
That was
searched,
my
forgot that.
yes, and I
Yeah,
searched
that's
high and
right.
low and I could not find anything.
Because nationally, that is a big thing right now,
I
just
just reached-
emphasizing the significance, the importance of having a postnatal exam. No matter what age you are, it's very important.
I reached out to the State Department person for guidance and he had nothing to share, so.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes, that's where, and then I'm like, well, what other state? So that's why I started on the website that I was on.
All right, of course, I can't find it. Why don't I find it? So. All right. So. We've reviewed, so now, are there any other suggestions of any of the content that we need to discuss? Have we, maybe,
That was it. That was,
Yep.
that completed the list. Yes.
okay. All right, so we've already talked about the content that's not covered. So now I guess we need to, what's our next step? As a committee?
We have a quorum now, so you
Yeah.
can actually make
You
decisions.
now can make decisions.
Okay. All right,
You can make
We'll make it.
motions for some of the recommendations.
okay, that's what I was
What I
looking for.
may suggest, and this you share, whatever recommendations come from, maybe we take it to academic committee and to the process should go to academic committee to public board and academic, since this is an ancillary part of committee. And recommendations go there and then be part of that board meeting. Academic committee. Is that good, Ms. Clinton? So
Okay. So. Does anybody, I mean, I feel like I'm,
why don't you talk out some ideas
All
for
right.
some key points, so
Well-
everyone can reiterate.
okay.
I think it'd be easier.
So, one thing that I think we've discussed is writing our own curriculum. Through curriculum writing teams, under the supervision of Emily. To create our own based off of what we have. I think another option we talked about was just only doing that for modules that were in question.
How many modules?
What's that? Less than
Between
10, but
5
more
and
than
10.
5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think the modules that are in question should definitely, that recommendation should be applied for that way, you know, for time's sake. We don't have
So do
to.
I hear you making a motion that for the modules in question?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
You want me to restate that?
So we're,
The modules that are in question with content, we'd like to make a recommendation to have curriculum writing teams write those lessons,
Just for the ones in.
just for the ones that are.
And I do think your suggestion would be a faster turnaround. That's gonna allow us to do it
Correct.
quicker
Mhm.
than the whole thing.
are we,
How many we
are we
have?
listing which modules are in the?
I can get you that, I just don't
Okay.
have it in front
Okay.
of me.
We should have-
So we'll just put in, we'll just say modules in question. Okay.
Do we have those from our previous notes? You know which ones
think she does. I.
Yeah, I have it all right here. I just don't have, I didn't pull it out to say.
So modules and questions, with. See. You're recommending that you have a curriculum writing team to write content for modules in question.
Right.
Yeah.
Modules that have content contrary to legislation. Is that better way to say it? Does that make sense? It goes
Modules and
against-
questions with content going against legislation.
Right.
Not consistent with legislation.
Yeah.
Not consistent
Thank
with.
you.
Okay.
There was one, communicable disease had some inaccurate
Yeah.
material.
Yeah.
And,
I know for sure it's in the bullying. I know it's in the sexually transmitted diseases section. It's fine. I'm pretty sure it's more than 5 when you look at middle and high school together. Are we gonna make recommendations for right now and future, or do we just need to focus on the right now?
I think we need to focus on right now.
Okay.
Dr. Stratos, we're just focusing on the
I'm
now.
sorry,
It's okay.
my calendar,
It's okay.
that horrible thing. Go ahead.
So are we focusing on recommendations for the immediate, or do we need to look at the future as well?
What is your immediate?
Dealing with the content that is not in compliance with the legislation. Okay,
So take a vote.
all right, all those in favor of
the mo-
sending that motion to academic committee for approval, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes 5-0.
The power y'all have.
Ooh,
You just made an agenda item.
it's so
Oh my
exciting.
God, we just developed that. agenda.
You need to.
We haven't posted it yet.
Yeah, And what I'm playing in Josh with Ms. Cushenberry is that, well, we can bring this up at the end of academic committee on Wednesday.
Okay.
So we don't have to wait a whole series, okay?
Oh,
All
right,
right, that's all.
okay.
All right.
So that deals with the content in question. Do we want to? Trying to think what else.
We ought to approve minutes, but I don't have minutes.
Oh, yeah, we weren't able to,
necessarily.
we haven't been able to approve. it.
And I didn't put them on here because we didn't have, so.
Oh, okay.
I'll put them on.
So we'll add the minutes
Yeah.
essentially.
We have to approve the, we haven't approved the agenda, but we
We can do something to see.
it was not.
Okay.
So if we're only focusing on the immediate, then that would be. We wouldn't need to look at the individual adding the videos or not using the videos, am I assuming that? Or do y'all want to go ahead and approve those suggestions that we have? In the interim, so that if we get to the point of where we're writing curriculum, then that stuff is already approved? Or using a graphic organizer, or do we want to go ahead, the suggestions that were brought forth to us based off of concerns that were
Well,
given?
we reviewed our thoughts on each of the videos, right?
Right,
So,
but we would need to make a motion to recommend this to the committee, who would then recommend it to the board. So we have to say yay or nay as a academic committee on each of these.
So moved that.
Do we want to, are we allowed to bundle it? All right,
To do whatever you
okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what are you doing?
But do we want to amend anything? Because there were some conversations as far as like the parent letter probably needs to be on its own.
yes.
And then the graphic organizer, we're talking about modifying from this to be in line with what the curriculum is.
And the website,
That's up with the parent letter.
okay.
You want to do that one next? Do we have can I just make the motion or do I have
You
to
can.
ask? Okay, I have to.
State what
Okay,
you
Someone,
want to know.
someone else has to make
Okay.
them up.
Is there a motion to recommend to academic committee a revision of the current parent letter to include options such as a parent video and or a landing page on the district website. Thank you.
Well, I'm only at, raising my hand. Is it a revision to the letter or is it an added option of delivery of, because you said revision?
Well, we have to revise the current letter because it's the old curriculum.
Right, so
We
you
still
gotta-
have to do a
okay,
letter
so you're
because
gonna
parents
update-
have
you're
to
gonna
opt.
update.
Okay, update.
Update. Because
What?
update is a gentler term.
Have you write out when you get through.
She's like, maybe it's too wordy.
I'm just gonna,
Yeah.
just so we can have it, I'm gonna let you write it out, somebody else can read it for you.
Okay.
If we can second it, and I'll have it.
Oh, God.
I will make the motion to approve, what you just.
Second it. What you
You're trying to
just
figure
said.
stuff on the fly, like, use some slack. To update the
Yeah,
current
motions are-
parent letter. And to include a parent video and or web page. Right, so I.
You want to say it one more time?
Yes, so is there a motion to update the current parent letter and to include a parent video and or webpage on the Beaufort County website?
So moved.
Thank
Way to pros. All in favor?
Aye. Oh, all in favor? Aye.
Okay, Tim Pierce made the motion. One did second the motion. And then it's 5-0. Okay,
All right.
that's two, that's
Okay, now
second
that-
motion. Is there a third motion coming out?
Yes, I think so. Hold on, I gotta find. So is there a motion to approve the suggested alternative videos that we looked at this evening?
I move that we
May I,
Okay.
right, because we're not approving, you're gonna.
Okay,
to
suggest,
recommend.
recommend.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
I do apologize.
Is there a motion to recommend to the academic committee the videos that we reviewed and discussed this
I
evening?
move that we recommend the videos
Thank you.
that we reviewed this evening.
Is there a second? All right, Ms. Constance is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Motion to recommend to the academic committee.
These videos to replace ones that we had concerns about.
So Mrs. Cushenberry, so with these three motions, I think it shifts the agenda in the sense that we have the two OEs for presentation. I would need a representative in order to bring forward somebody, although we have
The chair would be.
The chair just got
I
nominated.
would recommend the chair of the committee to come and present to the academic committee.
I have tutoring after school. All right,
So.
and then,
Did that.
so we do have a fourth if we want. You got me going now.
Well, it shows the great work that y'all have been doing. And I have to say that camaraderie is one thing, but to have these motions coming from you shows the work that you've been executing. And that's very important.
So this would be to create a graphic organizer that is in line with what the curriculum uses for students to use along the way for decision making. I do.
Is a motion needed for that if it's not content? Because that's activity versus content.
Well, that was gonna be my next, so what would so we would have to give them the decision to make, correct? I don't know.
Let's separate the
Yeah,
what
yep,
and the
yep.
how. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's prior, because it is what we're teaching versus the how of using.
The graphic one. Okay, got it. Excuse me. Okay, so I guess there isn't a fourth motion.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any-
How many more public humiliation?
You're doing great.
Yes, I really are.
And I think it's important for the parents to get a letter that is succinct and explains what will be introduced to their children. But to avoid as much educational jargon as possible, so that they can
Understand.
understand and embrace it and say, oh, neat, good, this is.
But if you want more information.
Yes.
Here is
there's
where
other
you
things.
go. Yeah.
And that we have information, this information, because it is also subject to the law. And that has to be cited no different than what we do with Gavin's law, Erin's law, right? In our letters we present, it cites that this is a requirement of XYZ legislation. We're not just arbitrarily saying we're gonna go teach this and pick daisies and.
The academic committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday here at 5 o'clock in conference room E. So for the committee to, the chair would present out to it, but the committee would be, if you're able to come, be there to answer questions and, board members and thoughts, so.
And
Just
maybe
putting,
not till 6 if it's a committee met, but I would,
yeah,
only because with the two OEs, or maybe we
so you
do,
probably start around 6 o'clock.
yeah.
So I don't need to leave school. early, is what you're saying.
I'm protecting the learning of our children.
Thank you.
The day before Thanksgiving.
No,
No, it's this
Day after
Wednesday, this
today.
Wednesday.
Oh, gotcha.
Right after tomorrow.
And then this would go to the board,
December 10th,
December, it is December
is it the 10th?
10th, yes.
And is
So
it-
anything coming out of academic committee on Wednesday would go to the board meeting and the board meeting will be here. It would be December 10th at 6 o'clock. So,
And the only complication from my seat with regard to that summary, I will probably be attending a requirement to be, yeah, so I'll have someone represent me.
that's
Pick a
just so
number,
that you
ladies.
all can have the count,
Pick
dates.
a number, it's 1 through 10, and it doesn't count 1 through 6, and it doesn't count 8 through 10.
Is the review of that material you all took, is that necessary for Wednesday's meeting?
Oh, the life cycle lessons?
I mean, if you had that, it would be a complete package. But if not, that's a fast turnaround.
Say it again, Miss Emily.
So she's talking about, we're missing that one module
The review of that.
of,
content.
which is those 5 lessons. It's the life cycle. So
It
it's the,
it wouldn't work out, we'd have to go back in January, and the why for that is, if you don't have it completed, which we don't. Academic is this Wednesday, the next academic will be post December 10th, which then takes that, so we can meet again, does that make sense, right?
Because you're scheduled to meet here, your next meeting is scheduled for December 16th at 5 o'clock
For health,
for health.
right,
How many, we're missing modules?
we're missing,
We're
we're missing module 10, I believe, is that right?
yes, so.
Of the
Mrs.
textbook.
Blaze is picking up 1, 2, 3. Ms.
I was
Blair-
doing 4 and 5, but if you want to
You want
do,
4, there you go. You
Yeah.
got 5.
you'll do 5? Okay.
I was
And
actually
she's gonna resend the link, because it's middle school.
Right.
middle school.
Yeah.
But it's the life cycle, so 5, I think, is like beyond, into your older age.
Into your age.
Yeah.
As your age.
Yeah, as you age, that's what
As
it
you
is.
age,
Yeah.
But I need that portion back to do my.
We'd have to give them a copy of.
Those little,
Hang on,
It was,
hang on, hang on, hang on.
Those fine.
those little content pages.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
for module,
And it's a total of
I
20.
think I have a blank one.
I have. Get it, I can go around and
Yep.
make it.
What number is it?
Oh, it's module 10. I have a blank one right here.
I don't, unless you have any links.
That's high school.
I have, someone has it, I
Some
can
middle
make
school?
copies.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of stuff out of my, because my bags.
So Dr. Stratus, just
Yes,
a
ma'am.
clarifying question. How does Rubicon Atlas timeline beginning to look at the pieces of content that are not a concern? Can we start looking at writing maps?
Oh, absolutely. That's, Emily hasn't finished it yet, oh, Emily.
Yeah, well,
She got, she's like, I just got here.
Well, the
Um,
curriculum writers are doing all but these topics, but
Yes.
I could also be going behind them and making sure.
Here's module, I have module 10 right here. Wanna
And
go?
suggest to.
She made to make copies
Yeah.
of the content, the little
Um,
notes. Yes.
So.
The link different or the password?
Did you find it?
different?
I have it right here. This is just for module 10. Oh, okay, and it's front and back. All right, so while Robin is taking care of that.
Is the link different? Or was she just resending it? So.
I think she's just
Yeah.
gonna resend it. Yeah, it should be the same.
Is that approved?
Do you need to approve this?
So, well, I think that to me, I don't know, committee, what do you feel? I feel like that would be just like the graphic organizer. Right, that would be incorporated into the
Is it
curriculum.
content or is it a noun or a verb? This is a noun, right? This is a thing. So this actually is content versus the verb of how. I understand how you slip
Right,
that
right.
by, it's pretty good, but this is. Yes.
Okay, so we'll have to wait for Miss Robin.
Yeah, yes.
We can write it out.
That's the old curriculum writing, is it a noun or verb?
Yeah, I actually have a handy dandy post-it pad here now. That I've pulled my whole life out of my bag. It's a motion to recommend.
This high school or?
Yes, ma'am. I put that in there. I said, so the motion is to recommend the postpartum depression resource to be included in the high school materials. We have to wait for Ms. Robin.
Okay.
She used to jot it down.
Sorry, my name is scratched. Original.
Yep. Thank you.
Robin, we have another motion.
I was gonna let her sit down first. But I wrote it out, thanks to Missy. So the motion is to recommend the postpartum depression resource to be included in the high school materials.
Who made that?
I believe Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
And then do we have a second? And Constance is the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. the motion Five. All right. So, are there any other items that we feel like we need to bring to academic committee for recommendation? Okay, wonderful. So that brings us to future topics, which we all need to review the module 10 as a future topic. And I guess whatever findings or whatever comes out of academic cabinet will, academic committee will, kind of guide us from there.
And are we keeping your December
16th.
16th meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
5
okay.
o'clock?
Yes.
An academic committee will be the following Wednesday of that week, but we haven't defined it. We won't
We
know.
haven't defined it yet, but I think
They will reserve it.
that's what it's reserved for.
Thank you.
Because we're hoping to do this semester as much as we can, right?
Yeah, it means somebody's gonna have a busy winter break. Is there anything else? Do we need
So-
to,
Emily, nothing?
No, no.
all right, what about filling vacancies or is there anything that we need to do as far as?
We did make mention of coordinator,
Yeah.
and we can do that again in the system. If you know anyone as a committee member, if you'd like to bring, we do need to have the 2 students. We could talk to Dr. Cox. I'll mention that to him. With regard to.
And the
Whatever they
one,
want to do, I think.
Deborah said that she was going to be here, but
I agree.
she was still interested. She didn't make it.
That was supposed to be, one of the students should have been here.
Because she had said she was gonna be able
That's
to.
just Things
And she
happen.
picked up a packet.
She did.
So,
And that was the student government president, or
no,
other young ladies also banned.
she was the one that's in the band.
Battery Creek was
Yes,
banned.
yeah,
So we have to get the student government president
president.
for this current year, so that'll be something I'll
Yeah.
reach out to Dr. Cox.
He has given me the name of that and,
All right,
so we'll reach out to them.
thank you.
Question on the, module 10
Yes,
for the changes during puberty. Well, I just need to use this as a dummy to put whatever this says something else here. It says some 4 incident element.
Oh. Why not?
That wasn't it. So,
I'm sorry, it would be,
Yeah, it didn't have lesson
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. It just got lesson 4 and 5, but we can.
sorry,
I'll be right back.
I apologize.
I have what I need.
You have what you need. Okay.
My apologies.
But we don't have any other agenda items.
No, so do we have to wait for Robin to adjourn officially?
Do we need everything she's making copies of?
If you are lessons 1, 2, and 3, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I believe what you could do is just, if you wanted to adjourn, then once you would adjourn, you would just need to know the time that you adjourn, and you would just want to be careful what you say because it will still be recording, so it will still be public until she ends
All right.
the YouTube.
You can adjourn and I'll end the meeting from here.
All right, thank you both. Appreciate it. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
All right, Dr. Pierce,
Second.
is there a second?
I
Ms.
think-
Colvin Smith? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye, any opposed? All right, thank you all so very much. I appreciate
Are there applause?
your patience. Yeah.